कलाप्रदर्शिनी 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 कलाप्रदर्शिनी
तत्तुम 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 तत्तुम
कलाप्रदर्शिनी.
Namaskaram. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Parvati Kantasala. This is my son, Mohinder Kantasala. I thank everyone for joining us for Earth series. Education is the backbone of every nation, and education is the basic for progress and upliftment of the society. Today, we have someone very, very special who has dedicated almost his entire life to the upliftment and economic development of the Indian middle class through education. None other than Dr. Viswanathan, Chancellor and founder of VIT University. Namaskaram, sir.
Namaskaram.
Your life story is worthy of taking a movie. Can you share your growth story with us?
Thank you. I am happy to be with the Kantasala family, which is a well-known family throughout South India, particularly Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
No. Well, I never chose my career. As and when it came, I accepted it. In fact, I was an old student of Loyola College. In that college, everybody wants to become a civil servant, many of them. So I also opted for it. I wrote my UPSC, Union Public Service Commission examination, and got through IPS in the 1962 batch. But I was posted in Tripura Manipur Police, which was a union territory at the time. I was not sure whether I should go and join. I went and asked my father. By the time I had joined law college, he said, "Why do you want to go such a long distance? You can be a lawyer here either in Vellore or Chennai." So I never joined. I left my civil service, police service. And I practiced for about 3 years. Then in 1966, I joined the bar in 63. And after 3 years, our late leader Anna called me and said, "Get ready for election." And by the end of 66, I entered into politics. Of course, I was there already as a student leader, but here directly into the politics. And in 1967, when I was about 27 years old, I was elected to Lok Sabha from Vandavasi, Vandivash constituency. I never expected I'm going to be an MP because I had no background. My father was a farmer. I come from a village. There was nobody in politics from our side. That's because of Anna, I entered into politics and became a member of parliament. I served there for 10 years. as a member of parliament. During all the 10 years, Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. Then I had a very good experience. I gathered a lot of experience as a member of parliament. In fact, I told people when I went to Delhi, I was a Tamilian. After reaching Parliament House, I became an Indian because I found all the top leaders of India in Parliament. In fact, our leader was Perasri Anbaragan. The first party in the opposition, of course, ruling party was headed by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and we had illustrious people like Y.B. Chavan, Jagajeevan Ram, Dr. Karan Singh, Sardar Swaran Singh, and a lot of people. In the opposition, the first party was Swatantra Party, headed by Professor N.G. Ranga. I knew him before. He contested from Chittoor 1967. In fact, I went for the campaign also for one day. But he was defeated in Chittoor and then went to Coastal Andhra, got elected, and he was the leader of the first party. There was no recognized opposition party in 67 Lok Sabha. The second party was Jan Sangh in those days. Later on became BJP. And Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the leader of the party. Third party was DMK. Then came CPI, CPM, etc. CPM was headed by A.K. Gopalan, the famous leader from Kerala. CPI was headed by Indrajit Gupta, my old friend from Bengal. Professor Hiren Mukherjee and others were there. It was a very illustrious house where top people are there. For example, Acharya Karplani. You must have heard about him. He was the Congress president once. And Sucheta Karplani, his wife, both were MPs. In fact, we used to see that they will come in the same car, get down in Lok Sabha, and he will come to the opposition, she will go to the ruling party. That was the scene we were witnessing. And probably I was one of the youngest. Ram Manohar Lohia was all there, from Samyukta Socialist Party. And a host of leaders in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. And our speaker was Neelam Sanjeev Reddy in 1967. I always remember him. One day he called me and said, he used to speak some Tamil words also. He was a old student of Pachabas College. நாளைக்கு நீ தமிழ்ல பேசு அப்படின்னார். I asked him, why, sir? He said, we are creating history. We are going to introduce languages, translation in southern languages plus Bengali, 5 languages. I will preside over. You are going to inaugurate by speaking in Tamil. That will be the first time in parliament where regional languages are given translation. And it happened. I spoke in Tamil. Sanjeev Reddy presided, and it was translated into Hindi and English. All the 5 languages, southern languages 4 plus Bengali was introduced, still it's going on. That's how parliament was. Then I was in the committee on defense and foreign affairs. In the defense, I had an opportunity to visit all the forward areas in the Chinese side as well as in the Pakistan side. In fact, in the Himalayan mountains, we went to near the no man's land. In those days, it was called NEFA, Northeast Frontier Agency, nowadays called Arunachal Pradesh. There is a Buddhist monastery about 15,000-20,000 feet above. And we were there for, in that area, we stayed for one day. There are no trees, there are no bushes, there are no birds, there are no animals. Everything is white. That's the place where our soldiers are there. In fact, we had to stay there one night. I was sleeping in the sleeping bag. They make holes and we are putting inside in the sleeping bag, only the head will be outside. I slept there. Only thing I remember is I found some Tamils there from North Arcot. They made me vada and gave me in the Himalayas. That I always remember. And in fact, the MPs who were accompanying me, three, four of them, were so happy that South Indian vada is given to them. Of course, in external affairs, I learned a lot of things in defense external affairs. And in 1971, the first time Government of India purchased jumbo jet 747. That was the first aircraft. At the time, its cost was about 25 crores. And in the inaugural flight from New Delhi to New York, I was one among those MPs who were sent. And that was my first visit to US. Of course, in 1971 September, I was sent to the conference, parliamentary conference, Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in Malaysia. That was my first visit, then US. Then I'm visiting US for the last almost 50 years. So I had opportunity to visit many countries on the way. And 71, I was again asked to contest. By the time Anna was not there, Mr. Karunanidhi took over as party president, Kalaignar Karunanidhi. So I became again MP from same constituency, Vandavasi. So I worked with all the four chief ministers. First time with Anna as first time MP, with Kalaignar Karunanidhi as second time MP. Then after the split in the party, you know, the DMK party was split into two, DMK and ADMK. I joined MGR in 1975, and he wanted me to come back to the assembly. So I was an MLA with MGR. And after MGR, again the party split into two, Janaki faction and Jayalalitha faction of ADMK. I was with Madam Jayalalitha. Then finally, the two parties merged. And in 91, I was asked to contest for the assembly. And I was appointed as a minister. I served there for about 2 years as a minister for food, cooperation, and daily development. With 96, I have taken leave of politics. By the time the college was started, in fact, this is an interesting story. There was no engineering college anywhere in the northern part of Tamil Nadu except Annamalai University. I went and requested Chief Minister MGR to open a government college in North Arcot district, the old North Arcot. Now it's divided into 4 to 5 districts. And he told me, no, we don't have money in the government. If you are interested, you start one, I will give you permission. That was the first year in 1984 when self-financing engineering colleges were allowed in the state. And this was one among the 10 colleges sanctioned by MGR. And that's how I was pushed into education. And it started as a small college in 1984 called Vellore Engineering College. And in 2001, it was given university status when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. And it started growing. Then the name was changed from Vellore Engineering College, which was affiliated to University of Madras. When it became a university, we changed the name into VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology. Now it has grown into 4 campuses, Vellore, Chennai, Amaravati, Andhra Pradesh, and Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. We have now 46,000 students. What began with 180 students in 1984, now 46,000 students in 4 campuses. You know, now the admission is going on. In fact, I came from the admission work, and now after completing, I'll go back. This year we had 183,000 applications, and it all done by machines now because of the pandemic. We have given all to the computer, and it ranks people according to their mark, and according to the mark, they can choose the subjects, campus, and the category of fees, then get a seat. That's how it's growing. Now, the most important thing is in the last 4 or 5 years, there is a ranking by Government of India. It's called the NIRF ranking. They rank the universities and colleges. And continuously for the last 4 or 5 years, we are number one among the private universities in the country. You know, there are about 1,000 universities in India, about 600 government universities and 400 private universities. We have been ranked number one among the private universities. In the overall ranking, it is number 15. Some of the IITs and NITs are there. The most important achievement, if you call it achievement by VIT, is last year, Government of India selected 20 institutions. They are called IOE, Institution of Eminence, 10 private and 10 government. VIT is one among the 10 which is selected by Government of India to be conferred the IOE status. That's a very, very important thing in the life of VIT. So we are happy that our teachers, we have a band of committed teachers, disciplined and hardworking students, and we are able to achieve, and also in research and publications. About 5 years ago, we were India's number 2. Indian Institute of Science was above us. Next year, we have overtaken IASC also in the Scopus Index publication. Now we are number 1 in the last 4 years in the number of publications, overtaking all the government universities, IITs, and IASC. That's because we encourage research in our university, both the students and teachers, and we are able to produce very good research papers. And because as a country, we are lagging behind in research and development. So we want to go up further. In fact, when we became VIT, my slogan was from VIT to IIT, IIT to MIT. So now we are almost on par with IIT. Now we have to compete with MIT, with the global institution, because America is the leader in higher education, and we want to compete with them. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. We can do it. Thank you for giving an opportunity to tell something about the university.
So thank you so much for walking us through your path to success. I'm sure it was not a carpet of roses, and you've gone through a lot of hardships. And firstly, congratulations for the institute. We're very proud.
Thank you.
All of us were very proud to see an institute from Tamil Nadu that started from scratch only 30 years ago, was able to compete with the national institutes, and also has an aim of going international. And I'm sure we have a lot of VIT alumni also watching this today. So thank you for everybody's contribution towards the success of this. So one of the things in your previous interviews, you mentioned the importance of Tamil language and Tamil literature. And I personally live in Europe, and I see that English is not the primary language even for business or daily communication. And these countries that have regional languages have better economic development, better social status, and other aspects. And currently, with the new education policy, where they're trying to introduce a 3-language system and encourage regional languages to, continue and thrive, what is your take on that, sir?
Well, I studied in Tamil medium in my school. Then when I joined intermediate, in those days called intermediate, afterwards became PUC, then +1, +2. I was struggling in Oris College to pick up English language. Then later on, when I joined Loyola College, of course, I became an orator. By the time when I left, I was an orator in both English and Tamil. And as far as English is concerned, even though it belongs to a small country, that country occupied 100 countries of the world. That's why English became an international language. Now, whether we should continue with English or go for local languages, that's a debate. India is known for its languages. According to 2011 census, the major languages spoken in the country are 121. If you include the languages and dialects, it is 19,500. So it's full of languages like caste. You have 25,000 a country which is not there anywhere in the world. Language is also we are leading. In the constitution, it is mentioned that Hindi in Devanagari script shall be the official language of India when they made the constitution, and prescribed 15 years time for English to continue. That's why there was a big agitation in Tamil Nadu in 1965, anti-Hindi agitation, because that is the year where English has to be removed and Hindi will take over as the sole official language, which was opposed by Tamil Nadu and other southern states plus Bengal. And finally, government agreed and changed the constitution. English will continue as an additional official language as long as non-Hindi states want it. That's how now we have a two language at the center. Of course, the three language formula is there for a long time, but it's not implemented in full. In fact, when I was a member of parliament, in Lok Sabha, it was passed in 1968. The three language formula, Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister, introduced it. According to three language formula, in the non-Hindi states, the students will study three languages. The local language or the state language, English and Hindi. These will be the three languages. In Hindi-speaking states, we have 9 Hindi-speaking states. They will study local language Hindi, English, and one modern Indian language, preferably a southern language. This is the three language formula passed in 1968, but somehow it was not implemented in many states. Some states implemented, some states did not. Now, again, in the new education policy, they have introduced Sanskrit in the three language formula. Previously, it was not there. Now they have introduced. And of course, education is in the concurrent list of the Constitution of India. So whatever we do in education, it should be with the consent of central government as well as state governments. I hope the state and center will put heads together and find a solution. I always feel that there are two areas where there should be continuity. One is foreign policy, the other one is education. Whenever there is a change of government, policy should not change. In fact, the number of democratic countries, they involve the opposition also in deciding the policies in both of them, the foreign policy as well as educational policy. Of course, we are trying to grow as a democracy. We are a young democracy. I hope in the future, we will also become a mature democracy where the ruling party and the opposition will sit together and decide the policies of the future. It's a difficult subject as far as languages are concerned. It has to be, we have to go slow, convince everybody, and the states also have to be taken together by the central government.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insight. That was wonderful.
So, Indian education system solely focuses only on academics and not overall development. The arts and sports never to be seen and given the importance. Like in the West, what are your thoughts about this?
You are right. We have been following the old system. Now there is a slow change in some, for example, VIT, we have introduced a number of innovations in the teaching learning process. We are involving leading business and companies, in the manufacturing companies and business houses in the making the curriculum itself, so that the student will be aware of what is happening outside the country. And also, engineering students need not study all engineering subjects. In order to have an overall development of the personality, the engineering subjects will be only 65%, The rest 30% are science, humanities, and business. In fact, somebody who studies computer science will study economics or sociology. That's how we are given option to them. And there is another system called FFCS, fully flexible credit system, where there are among the 6 subjects, 3 are core subjects or compulsory subjects. The rest 3 the student can choose. The student can choose the subject, he or she can choose the professor and timing also. This is not there in any other university. Of course, something is there in IITs, but not to this extent. So we have given the flexibility to students to choose subject. If the same subject is taught by 5, 6 professors, the candidate can choose, the student can choose the professor also. It creates a pressure on the professors. Unless he is good, people will not choose it. Students will not choose it. This is the kind of thing we are giving, and we are involving one subject in each semester will be taught by a person from industry, so that he will come and share his experiences, practical experiences, because we are lagging behind in practical knowledge. We are good in theory, but not very good in the practice. We want to remove this. That's why we are bringing the people from industry to teach, and also we ask them to go and visit industry. It is compulsory for our students and teachers to go and visit industry. Uh, we are trying to upgrade the syllabus on par with the US and Europe, because they are the leaders. And once in 4 years, we have overhauling of the syllabus. Once in a year, we introduce whatever is new in the other part of the Western world, we introduce, so that they will be on par with the students of US and Europe. Because ultimately, we prepare them for the world market. All of them cannot be accommodated here. And now at present, 18,000 VITians, the old student alumni of VIT, are serving outside in 84 countries. Of course, the maximum number is in US, about 7,000 of them. In US, I find we have occupied all the 50 states. In fact, I used to tell, once British was a small country, it occupied the whole world. Why can't India occupy? We may not be able to capture governments, but we can capture positions. That's how we have students in all the 50 states of US and almost all the continents. And the only continent left out is South America. In fact, I am telling our people that we should enter South America also. We have a very good opportunity. Our students are good. We are hardworking, and we have a band of committed teachers. We are able to make a difference, and we must be able to compete with the best of students produced by the leading universities in US and Europe. I think it is possible, and as she said, we require practical knowledge. That's what we are trying to give it to our students.
You're also a connoisseur of fine arts and Tamil language. Can you state the source of inspiration, and did you implement in your university?
Well, we are teaching 2 Indian languages, Tamil and Hindi, and 7 foreign languages in VIT. They can choose any one among them. One is compulsory, the rest is left to them. Of course, the French and German are very attractive for students. We teach French, German, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, Russian, and Arabic. These are the languages we teach. And we want them to be above others when they go out of the country. And that's why English plays a very major role. And of course, other languages are there, like Spanish, which is spoken in a number of countries. French is spoken in a number of countries. So we would like to have the advantage of language to our children. And that's what we are doing. What exactly do you want?
Yes, I think that answers the question.
Yes.
Because after when I was in the US, it was all English. But when I moved to Europe, I started having language became one of the barriers. And it's wonderful that from the university level, you're having other languages to keep the students upgraded, or they can compete in any market with that additional language skill set, which is very important. So thank you so much for that. And as you mentioned rightly, learning and change are the only two continuous things. And research and publication, I think India is lacking on it. And I think VIT are pioneers in the number of research papers that you are providing. So in one of your previous interviews, you had mentioned that government spending versus private spending, and the countries where the government spending is higher, people tend to spend lesser, but the quality and the development of the country is higher. But in India, it's reverse, where the government spending has been reducing in terms of different stages of education. And education in its real sense and the quality of education does not reach the majority of the underprivileged.
No, it's a very important question. As she said in the beginning, unless we become advanced in education, we cannot become an advanced country economically. We have seen how countries who make progress with education alone. In fact, I always compare two Asian countries or three Asian countries with India: South Korea, Japan, and China. In 1960, the per capita income, of course, that's the yardstick by which we measure the advancement of a country. India and China were same, $80. South Korea, the per capita income was $160. In Japan, it was $480. That was in 1960. Now, after 60 years, they have taken so much steps in education, both South Korea and Japan. Now, South Korea has crossed $34,000 and Japan has crossed $40,000. China is trying and they have crossed $12,000, whereas we are in 2,300. That's because we don't take seriously spending on education. No doubt in school education we are able to make a progress, but it's not enough. Higher education is a must for any country which wants to make an advancement economically. We have, according to 2011 census, the students eligible for higher education is 14 crores between 18 to 23, out of which only about 3.5 crores are in higher education. That's why our gross enrollment ratio is only around 25-26%, whereas it is varies from 50% to 100% in advanced countries. So I want the government to take it seriously, both central government and state government, and spend enough money on education, because the poor and the middle class are still unable to go for higher education. Long way back, about 50 years ago, it was suggested by Education Commission that 6% of the GDP should be spent on education in the country. But we have never reached 4% so far in so many years. And in fact, sometimes it goes down. For example, in last year's budget, it was 3.3% of the total budget allocation. And this year's budget has come down to 3.2%. That's how we are not concentrating on education. I'm not blaming the government because they have so many priorities, but there are almost 140 countries who are spending more than us in the world. So it is time now that we increase. Of course, the present new education policy also has suggested, and the government has accepted it, that they are going to increase their funding on education. Unless enough scholarship is given to poor and middle class students, we may not be able to attract them to colleges and universities. It is a must that we should move forward in higher education so that economically also we will become a prosperous country. For example, we are growing, but only thing is, if we have enough education, our growth rate will be much higher. At present, we are one among the leading countries as a total GDP. Our rank is number 5 in the world, next only to US, China, Japan, and Germany. We are number 5. Our GDP is about $3.2 trillion. But when it goes to per capita income, its ranking is 139, because it's lack of education. We are unable to compete with each other. Of course, the rich are becoming richer. The disparity is increasing in the country, which is not good for a democracy. I find among the economically disparity, the countries, we are number 2 in the world. The maximum disparity is in Russia. Next comes India. It's not good for a democracy. We should see that this disparity is reduced year after year, and education is a part of it. Education will help it to reduce the disparity. I hope for both the countries' advancement as well as equality, economic equality. Higher education must be concentrated. The attention of the government should be on higher education, both center and the state governments.
Thank you, sir. And one of the things that you also talk about is people who can do should be able to do. And I think you're a pioneer of that. You created this program called the STARS program, Support the Advancement of Rural Students, where you're picking rural students and giving them a complete. Could you help us understand that, sir?
That is to encourage the rural students studying in government schools. We started this scheme. It's called Support the Advancement of Rural Students, shortly known as STARS. We select one boy and one girl from each district, studied in a government school, and give them education, free education, boarding, and lodging. It's a symbolic encouragement of rural students to come up to study well, so that they will also compete with others. In fact, we have another scheme here. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called, in Tamil, we call it Anaivarukkum Uyar Kalvi, Universal Higher Education. We have created a trust. It's a public trust. Of course, I am the chairman of the trust. The public are involved. We want to make Vellore as a model for the entire country. Out of 740 districts in the country, this is the only district where we are providing education to poor children without government help. We started in 2008. So far, about 6,500 students are beneficiaries. 2/3 of them are girls. We are solving another issue also, because if they are not going for higher education, many parents get them married immediately after 10th class or 12th class. You cannot go and tell them not to get married. But if you suggest that she goes for higher education, they agree. The student agrees and the parents also agree. In fact, in that way, we have stopped these underage marriages, and they go for higher education. Whatever they want, we ask them to select whatever they mostly nursing, teacher training, whatever that should not stop with class 12. That's how about 6.5 crores we have spent so far on about 6,500 students. And it's a model for the entire country, where poor and middle class can go and have higher education, whatever they want and wherever they want. They study in various institutions, arts colleges, science colleges, nursing college, many things. It's an important achievement which we have done. In fact, I'm so happy about it, because nobody else has done in the country.
Wonderful, sir. It's almost like an ecosystem that VIT has created to support not just the students, but the environment. Every time there's a VIT that comes, it's not it's a whole ecosystem that you've created. So it's very rightly people call you're an institution by yourself.
So it was wonderful talking to you, sir, and so much of information. It's really very beautiful.
So thank you so much, sir, for your time. And for our audience, Kala Pradarshini is a hero that promotes Indian culture and arts. And Sir himself has supported us in our previous events. So thank you so much, sir, for that as well. And for anyone who would like to contribute during this pandemic, definitely reach out to us on our email. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I thank the Ghantashala family. Thank you.
Thank you. Please watch every Saturday, Sunday at 8 p.m. Earth. Thank you.
Thank you.